is Nicola Bellomo, who is affiliated both to the Politecnico University of Torino and also University of Granada. And Nicola will tell us about from contagion to in-host dynamics of a mutating virus. So please, you can go ahead and share your slides.
Thank you. Sorry for this little loss of time. Actually, I am now operating in Spain, University of Granada, and this talk, I wish to thank the organizers, is in collaboration with Mark Chaplin and with some co-workers of mine. And this is rapidly in two parts. The first part is about the modeling objective and strategy as we try to get out of the usual framework of mathematics used in other fields, but try to build up a new mathematical approach. And then out of that, we move to the modeling, which is referred to an evolving system, which includes also pseudo-Darwinian mutations and selection. So the main reference is the paper, is an interdisciplinary paper, which has seen the collaboration of not only of applied mathematicians, but also virologists and immunologists and economists as well, as we think that social life and social systems and economy have an impact on COVID pandemic. We actually were also inspired by the RAMP project promoted by the Royal Society and for the in-host modeling coordinated by Mark Chaplin. So I say three obvious statements which I think have been shared by all talks until now. So applied mathematicians cannot move on this field by a standing alone approach. Interdisciplinarity is important. We have to go beyond the deterministic population dynamics because the system is complex, is mutating, is heterogeneous. And we also need a multi-scale approach as the interactions which characterize the dynamics are definitely multi-scale, moving from the lower molecular scale up to the macroscopic scale. But with some little optimism, we may trust that mathematical models can produce insightful provisional simulations. Hopefully useful for say policy maker, crisis managers. So the system, we have to work with a complex systems where the number of interactions is rather complex as we start from healthy people, but these healthy people are subject to contagions. There are two types of contagion, they say the short networks and long networks related to transportation devices. Then after contagion, we move to the infected phase, which is not just a number, but includes internal variables which define the level of infection. And out of that, the model might recover the number of recovered individuals, the hospitalized, those who need hospitalization and related to the level of their pathology, and eventually some of them will unfortunately die. Vaccination can contribute to mitigate this work. So the mathematical approach is based on the idea that we don't have, as various eminent mathematicians have stated, we don't have a background field theory to support the derivation of models. So we firstly look for mathematical structures suitable to capture the complexity features of living systems, and then implementing interactions and external actions, we actually derive the model. This is the strategy which has to be after, of course, has to tackle the problem of model validation, generate mathematical problems which are generated, and so on. So the general structure actually has a name because it is the so-called kinetic theory for active particles. And the main features of this theory is a mathematical theory, which is reported in the book below. The main features is that the dependent variable are probability distribution over the internal variable, and the internal variable can also be at different scales. Then we have to implement the theory by interactions rate, transition probability rates, which model the transition from one microscopic state to the other. So, how to build up? Actually, we have to build up the interactions to be implemented in the mathematical structure I presented before. So I can only give a brief sketch of the physical dynamics we have been accounting for. Contagion probability depends on the level of infections. More infected individuals are more infective, but also on the social distance between individuals. So individuals, once infected, generate a competition inside the lung between the proliferative virus and the immune system. The level of infection can progress or regress due to the prevalence or lack of prevalence of the virus. For infected individuals, then mutations may occur. Some, as we know, some of the mutations are not significant because they can generate a weaker virus, but some of them, unfortunately, may generate a stronger virus, namely a virus with higher proliferative ability. Vaccination improves the defensibility of the immune system, but is not exhaustive. The vaccine has a validity up to a certain level. So it is not impossible that vaccinated person may even capture the virus, although at a lower level of infections. So we introduce parameters to account for the dynamics I was mentioning before, say the level of confinement, which may be function of time because we go through locking and delocking actions. Actually, this is a political problem, as politicians should ask to science how this play between locking and delocking should be done, rather than to other political motivations. Then we have the defensibility of the immune systems, the level of pathology, and so on. So the overall system is made by several interacting groups of individuals and cells, because we have a multi-scale system wherein there are individuals, and each individual is carrier of an internal state where the dynamics occur at a cellular scale. So we divide the overall system into what they are called in the theory functional subsystems, namely populations which are carrier of an internal state. So we need 7, that is, this is the smallest number, of course it can be improved, the smallest number of it in the functional subsystems, and move to the equations which have been obtained by inserting into the mathematical framework also the actual models of the microscale and macroscale interactions. So we have a model. The model, like all models, is not, say, universal. It should be improved. It should be refined, and we actually are working into the direction of obtaining a more general, more refined model. However, this model already is capable to provide some useful information, useful, I hope, although I do not naively claim that we have solved the problem. We are just moving along a very complex path, also from the mathematical viewpoint. Just wanted to visualize the dynamics I was mentioning before. We have infected individuals belonging to different functional subsystem. The action of the immune system can, in probability, send some of them to low level, which ultimately may be also the recovery. On the other hand, the action of the virus moves the competition towards high level of infections, and if nothing is done, if we don't have therapeutical actions, etc., then it might even go to death. Of course, in this case, an interesting problem would be studying multiple medical pathology related to these dynamics. So actually, we can have a picture of the what we call, say, people like me who is not very strong in biology. I use the word first wave. So starting for a very small number of infected people, we have the development of the wave up to the time is not is a time referred to some reference quantities, and of course the peak of the shapes depends on the level of ability of the virus to infect the individual. It depends also on the defense of the immune system, which is a learning system. It starts from innate immunity, moves to the active immunity when the virus is recognized, and also it can be improved by medical actions up to the vaccination. The second wave is related to mainly to the delocking, the selection of the delocking time, but also to the level of delocking which is introduced. So we can have both cases. The second wave, which is more dangerous than the primary wave, or a second wave which is weaker. As we know, population would like a delocking parameter as large as possible, but no one, some of them do not takes sufficiently into account the. So we may also consider a delocking time when the first wave is decaying, but not completely flat, because you see, it's a serious problem. The virus survives. There are a very few ones which survive to the locking. They are ready to start again. But if you interrupt it before the flat behavior, then you have a second wave. But this figure shows an important information. The variant is the yellow or brown colored line. Then the variant takes the place of the primary virus. So it is the variant who play the game against the individual. So variants, we know that variants are dangerous, but this provides a visualization of the. Now where we are going, what we are doing. This is another picture of the same. Even if we cut it before and we have a blow up, not a blow up, but an increase of the primary virus, then the variant takes the place. Now, what we would like to do is, as I mentioned right from the beginning, we do not want to do not claim to make this work by standing alone approach. We are open to any suggestion and collaboration. The idea is studying the role of the vaccination program. We have the model. We have some indications. Now we want to investigate a systematic study, develop a systematic study of the vaccination program. Then we should, someone has mentioned this kind of problems. The in-host dynamics should be related to the lung dynamics, because if the infection moves in the red region, then it propagates, and then where the first talk of the second group was exactly modeling it by reaction diffusion equations. And this is an important problem. It is also important problem modeling how individual moving in a crowd or inside a crowd, inside or outside open area or closed area, propagate the virus by contagion. It depends on the trajectories they follow, and also, of course, of the awareness to the risk of contagion. Awareness drives to a selection of trajectories which are safer, while lack of contagion is really the worst thing, which is a very bad news for the propagation. So far, I wish to just to mention that various persons have provided suggestions, ideas, and collaboration to our enterprise. We are open to any scientist interested to collaborate. And I also wish to thank the organizers, thank the audience, and also mention in conclusion a note by the New Yorker. The pandemic is not a black swan. but it just witnesses the fragility of our global system. Our system is fragile everywhere, including climate, heating, etc. And science can contribute to keep our planet less fragile. Thank you to everyone.
Nicola, thank you very much. While I'm waiting to give a window for questions and answers to come through, I very much agree with your sentiments, both at the end there and also at the start, that the way to do some of this is very interdisciplinary. We're going to make the most progress. I think I'm going to ask you the same variant of my usual question, which is here it's, when does all this level of detail matter? When could we just do it as an SIR and we discover everything we know? When do these more detailed host states really tell us something different?
Well, it gives a lot of information. It can include the heterogeneity of the individuals. Actually, we have different types of heterogeneity. One, the important one, is the immune ability, which moves with the age, decays with the age. So we include that type of heterogeneity, but we can also have an internal variable, which is a vector, and include also the social activity of the individual, because there are activities which are more keen to contagion than others. So this is the problem. The other key problem is that we should account for variations. The variations depends to the proliferation activity. During the proliferation, sometimes the system makes a mistake, and the newborn is not like the mother or father, whatever we can call it, virus, but is different, either weaker or stronger. Of course, proliferation, the probability of mutation is higher if the infected individual, the number of infected individuals is large. And actually, vaccine can effectively contribute not only to save individuals, but also to keep the risk of variants higher. So the system is rich. The problem is that the mathematics is not so simple, is not immediately readable. On the other hand, I do think that the interactions between mathematicians and biologists should be on the interactions, on the modeling of interactions, because a mathematician cannot invent biology, only the expert can do that. Only immunologists can teach us how the immune system works, but then mathematics must do its task, and go on and go ahead.
Right, thank you very much. Nicola, thank you very much overall. And for all three speakers this afternoon, Chris, Nick and Nicola, thank you. Lots and lots to think about, and it's nice to sort of get these sort of different levels linked up and starting to think about it. I think I'm scheduled now for next steps. I'm going to keep it quite brief. I've been frantically writing notes and keeping track of interesting questions we can pursue. For those of you who are able to join us tomorrow, some of those are, I think we're going to be heading for big questions of how we join this up and when it matters. There's some specific questions that have come up yesterday and today on, how did the generation time shape this, or what shapes generation time this way? But I'm also wondering, we've got a really special situation here where we've got a variety of people working on this, and actually I can see in the attendees list a lot of mathematicians more from the sort of what I think of the physical side. So we can bring in the fluids and environments and some expertise there. And I slightly wonder if one of the next steps we might think about working towards tomorrow is putting forward some reviews while we've got all these different groups together and publishing something together on this. So if any more suggestions, if you can ping them to me by maybe email in the next hour, and I'll try and pull some of these ideas together. And then for those of us able to, we'll regather tomorrow and continue work in a more workshop style. All speakers, thank you very much. It's been brilliant. Thank you.